Good evening and welcome to Dark Hour Paranormal. I am your host, Michael Roser, and folks, tonight I have quite the treat for you. In the studio with me tonight is the one and only Dark Hour Paranormal Society. Now, what led me to these guys, albeit as awesome and extensive as their research is, was the moniker. Just for kicks, many years ago I decided to look up the Dark Hour Paranormal brand, and sure enough, I did come across this outfit, and at the time, I thought they were pretty cool. Well, it's been many years since I was aware of their presence within this field, and I had reached out to the founder, Jeff, and we had a fantastic conversation personally when it came to the paranormal, his experiences, his wife's experiences, the team's overall experiences. These guys have been in operation since 2001. So they have had the time to certainly gather their evidence, gather their wits, and of course the instrumentation that they use, approach things from many different angles, which of course we understand versatility is a must when it comes to this particular aspect of reviewing or observing the paranormal. We are very limited within the tools that we have, or so it seems. Truth of the matter is, we may have more than we would ever need externally right here with the body that we possess. But until we get to this impasse where we can say we'll ditch the technology and only use the intuition, we're always going to have this left-brained interpretation, which of course appeals, in the very least, to the academic and scholastic sides of ourselves when it comes to looking at the paranormal. First and foremost, before I bring Jeff on, I want to say hello and thank all of you for joining us here tonight. We have a fantastic show ahead of us, and I want to say a couple different things. I'll keep this towards the end. I'm very excited about what's to come. But immediately, I have Jeff from Dark Hour Paranormal Society here to discuss his experiences and philosophies along the paranormal lines with us. So, without hesitation, or without ado, as they say on YouTube, I'd like you to let's try that again. I'd like to introduce to you Jeff from Dark Hour Paranormal Society. Jeff, how you doing today, my friend? It's fantastic to see you, brother. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
Now, I understand there's a little bit of lag between us here with the feed, so we can work with that. What I'll do is I'll pose the question and, give you a moment to respond, and then we'll kind of jump and piggyback as we go. Hopefully this connection remains a little less dodgy than what we've been dealing with. But hey, this is the world of broadcasting. Oh, we just lost Jeff. That's okay. He'll be back in just a moment. I know they are dealing down in Texas there with some pretty inclement weather on the horizon. So these thunderstorms, unfortunately, as they rip through in bands, really do some damage. We'll put it that way, and can truncate certain broadcasts. Of course, the internet, you guys are all familiar with this. Here we go. Jeff is back. Jeff, you back with us, my friend?
I'm here.
Here we go.
I don't know what's in there.
I'll tell you what, just for the hell of it, try shutting the camera off and just using audio for the moment. Every once in a while, that does seem to help. You're going to keep your audio and ditch your video. Just to see.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and so far we're sounding smoother. Let's go down this route for now. Jeff, so
okay.
all jokes aside here, in the way that I've approached you in the moniker and everything. I mean, this is wonderful that we sort of share a similar interest, and of course our direction I think is also similar. But going back to 2001 when you established Dark Hour Paranormal Society, can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to create an outfit? I mean, so many people have interest in the subject, right? And very few take on any sort of endeavor that has to do with action, going out and, purposefully and intentionally investigating the paranormal. So for you, what got you to the point where you decided you wanted to put together an entire team in order to observe the paranormal and gather evidence?
Well, Michael, it all started again in '01. I and my wife were watching the paranormal shows, and over and over again, we kept looking and thinking the same thing. It's not only out there and just doing it, but people doing this. And we started doing background checks, me going to the public library, and reading books and everything, and seeing the team, and the team is basically our family, basically. I'm sorry,
Yeah, Jeff, let me stop you there for just a moment. It's really, really difficult to hear you. Your internet connection is really somewhat of an issue here. Let me ask you, we're going to try one more thing, because every once in a while this does happen. And sorry?
That was my wife telling me I needed to move, too. I need to move closer to the window.
Okay. Hey, you know what? So far, so good. And I apologize, but I'll ask you to reiterate your answer to that question, because I couldn't catch it.
Okay. In 01, we decided we could help people doing this, not jumping into it and just doing it, and we did research, a lot of research before we decided to do this. At our first investigation, we took on a client, and to be honest, we were terrified, absolutely terrified of what we were getting ourselves involved in. However, we helped them. We helped them a lot. They said that after we were gone, after we checked back and see if things were still active, they said no activity. Whatever you did, there's no activity in our home anymore. Thank you so much. Well, you're very, very welcome. Okay. Next thing I know, my phone was ringing constantly. Emails coming in constantly. Please help us. Please help us. Please help us. I mean, we had people coming. Yeah, we had people coming in calling us from Massachusetts, where you're from, to be honest.
I'll be.
Hang on a minute, Mike.
Sure. Yeah, that's curious. He took one case, and next thing you know, word of mouth, this had spread, and people were able to contact him. Jeff, just let me know when you're back, my friend.
I'm here.
Okay. So when you started this, back in 2001, we had the advent of ghost investigation in, I think, the mid to late 90s. I think most of the consensus is that it started with ghost hunters or, some of these peripheral groups, but these guys were certainly in the limelight, and as a result of that, sort of became the standard in way of practice when it came to investigating the paranormal. So my point here is that, as you took on the undertaking of creating a team, you didn't necessarily have the guidance or experienced people that we maybe could reach out to today to say, hey, I've been doing this for X number of years, and this is what I've learned, and you take another angle and same thing, so forth. How much difficulty or hard learning did you have to go through to sort of empirically understand the paranormal as a whole in the way that you and your team would investigate it?
Again, a lot of research, Michael. A lot of research. I was constantly on the internet, checking things and speaking with my team. My niece, Brittany. I'll give you her name, Brittany. Mm-hmm. She came on, and we did a cemetery out in the countryside here in Texas, north central Texas. Mm-hmm. That's how she joined the team, because she just rode with us, and she decided, well, I'm going to get out and check things out. She got out, and I said, Brittany, do you know what you're doing? She says, I have no clue. I said, well, stay with Brandy. Brandy is my wife. I said, stay with Brandy, and she will guide you and direct you. Well, next thing I know, Brittany was taking the lead, and she did a wonderful job. But needless to say, we were not professionals. We were not professionals by no means at all, and we were helping people, taking clients and helping people the best we could, and we were getting the job done, Michael. We were getting the job done.
That's the curious thing to me, because there have been many people who would go out into the field with the intention to be of some spiritual aid, and either they'd flounder or even create a situation that was far worse. I wonder
Yes.
sometimes, when you have certain people going into this field, again, the intention might be there, but they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So unfortunately, sometimes they can end up really causing an issue. Did you ever stumble upon any of that in your building up to where you are today, with the idea or the motif that you're going in there to help people on that level?
Yes, there are teams around here that watch way too much television and think that they are ghost hunters, and they take on clients and they stumble and they make problems. Then we get the call, come clean the problem up.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had to do that multiple times.
Do you have one investigation that sticks out amongst all the others that you have been involved in, whether it's more negative in way of impact or more positive in way of impact? Is there one that you really sit back and ruminate about?
Outside of Corsicana, which is south of us, we did a old farmhouse. And I can't remember why they wanted us there. They were going to tear it down. They were going to do something with it. I can't recall. But their home was in the back behind the old farmhouse. And we went into the farmhouse. And I and my former partner were in the back bedroom doing EVP. And I looked and said, well, it's time. We need to wrap this up, start packing our stuff up, get out of here. And he agreed, and he said, well, I'm going to continue on for a little bit. I said, well, I'm going to go help the girls get packed up, which was Brandy and his wife and my daughter and his daughter. They were going to get everything packed up, and I was going to help them. Well, as I stepped out of that bedroom into what was the dining room area, there he stood in all of his glory. To my right, I could still today, and that was about, oh goodness, I can't even recall the year, Michael. Be honest, it's been a while, but I can still today do a sketch artist of this man that was standing there looking at me. His hair was cut right above his eyebrows, and it came down around his back behind his neck. He had a white collarless shirt. His jacket was black, and it came down and hit him in his thighs. Black pants, no feet.
Would you call his dress periodic?
Of the time, I would say early 1900s.
Okay.
But it was like it was a eternity that we stood there and stared at each other, but it was only a matter of minutes, or not even minutes, seconds. And he took a step back, and it's not. They don't really. To me, he didn't disappear. It was more like an explosion, and he was gone. And
did this explosion have sound to it? Was there any
pressure
waves?
Not at all. Not at all. And the girl said, Jeff, what happened? And I told them. They said, did you get any film? I said, I didn't get anything. I just stood there when we made eye contact. And that's one I still remember. I will always remember that one.
Now, many people go out to these locations and they do their very best to identify what they see. And what you're describing to me sounds like a classic apparition, wherein you have defined characteristics. There are many attributes that you can, point to and say, this is what it is. How did this experience, in way of what you saw, differ from perhaps seeing what people would consider a shadow person?
This was not a shadow person. I've seen shadow people before. This was not. This was a full body apparition. A full body apparition. Just as I'm looking at you, he was looking at me. But we were called by a Teague, Texas police officer and his family to come to Teague and help them. We drove down to Teague, which is south of us, and we drove down to Teague and spent a good hour just visiting with them. And then they cleared the house, and we began our investigation. We caught multiple things, and one of them was a man's voice, and we couldn't really figure out what he was saying on the EVP. And we always give us about 2 weeks after we do the investigation to go over all the evidence, and then we'll come back and present to you what we found. Well, Brandy cleaned it up on the computer, and we put it on, or she put it on flash drives, and we took a drive back to Teague and presented it to them. Half the Teague Police Department was there at his house because they wanted to see, are the ghost hunters for real? And to find out we were real. We really found this stuff, and we found we had photos, we had a video, we had audio, we had it all, and we showed it to them. Well, needless to say, we became very good, close, dear friends with this family. We went back 3 different times because Mr. Creepy is what they kept calling him. And I'll come to that big time in a moment, but he said, why don't y'all go into the old nursing home? Okay. Sounds great. How do we do that? He says, we'll go over and unlock the door and let you in. We go in there all the time to do checks, run the kids out because the kids go in there, and boys and girls go in there together. But needless to say, they let us in and they cleared it for us, and then we began our investigation. We had the entire team with us. There was about 10 of us there that night. And we did good that first night. We caught quite a bit of stuff. Even my skeptic sister-in-law, she saw a lady come out of a room and looked right at her. And it kind of freaked her out a little bit, but she held strong, continued on with the investigation. And we went back a second time, did the same thing. Third time, we were called back. Second time, we were run out. Shadow figures run us out of there. We didn't even pack our stuff. We just threw our stuff in our gear boxes and left out of the building. But the third time, he called me, and he says, I want you to take a look at these pictures of the nursing home I'm going to send you. I thought, well, maybe they went in and did a check, and he caught something. I said, okay, sure. The place was on fire. The children had did some redecorating, and they caught the place on fire. And it was about a 4 or 5 alarm fire because it set in a neighborhood. Even the trees were on fire. And all that was left was just a concrete slab.
Why do you think some of these experiences, that you're talking about, people going into the location, you've spoken with them, you've had your own experience, why do you think this is so difficult for science to have it repeat? So it's not repeatable. If you have an experience in one house and I go in, maybe I don't feel anything. Why, in your opinion, do you think that is?
Sensitivity, I would say. More people are sensitive than others. Some may be a medium. And we have mediums on our team, and we have one that's a sensitive and one that's a medium. The sensitive goes in first, the medium goes in second. They don't talk to each other and they don't compare. They come to us one at a time and tell us what they feel and what they see and what they find. And then
it's a lot of trust. It's a lot of trust for people to give you a call. I mean, police officers, authority figures, giving over, again, certain control to your team because, that you've had the experience in dealing with something that perhaps is not familiar to those people. Again, I mean, the trust here is just absolutely unequivocal when it comes to this type of relationship. When you go into a house of somebody who's called you, and, we deem this some sort of case, after the initial cleansing or the investigation, you're gathering your evidence, what's your protocol for follow-ups with those families or individuals affected by what you went into research?
Are you saying after we've gone and presented the evidence to them? Is that what you're talking about?
In a sense, I mean, let's say that you came to my house, I had an issue, and you did all of this investigation, you gathered whatever you did, so a week goes by, maybe you present the information, maybe you haven't gotten there yet, but, sometimes people will call and see if what they've done in way of cessation is sustaining. So, over the last week, Michael, have you still experienced some of this stuff, beyond the evidence? What's your protocol for that?
We check back with the families and constantly checking back. Either it's I or my wife or my daughter. We're checking and make sure that they're okay. And I'm going to say 90% of our investigations that we have done, they've told us there's nothing here anymore. But the others, the way we just couldn't get rid of it.
I understand that there are energies that seem to be stronger or more resistant to removal or even suggestion when it comes to this sort of thing. And of course, the attachments that I have caught on 2 different occasions, I don't think there were others that could have helped me with this. It was something I needed to go through myself. With this sort of peril in mind, knowing that you're going into a space that may present some sort of danger, I understand that your team is based in religion, which is absolutely fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that, folks. A belief system is only as good as the intention behind it, so it really comes back down to the individual. Do you have a priest or any sort of religious figure within your team or at arm's length in case something like this happens, or if you need the protection going into a very specific negative space? What do you have?
Our minister at our church. He will. Okay. He's got our back 100%. So.
Fantastic. I think that's important. And even though I'm not a religious person myself, I do have memorabilia and certain power objects that were blessed by priests of different faiths, and I do hold something with that. Now, very quickly, Offworld Adam, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. He has a quick question for you. He says, has your guest ever had a visitation in sleep? And I think that, this is a very large subject, Offworld, and I appreciate you bringing it up because a lot of people will have more experiences during their sleep time, dream time, rather than something more visceral in their waking state. Jeff, what about yourself? Have you ever been visited by a spirit, whether it be something not familiar, maybe of the area, or perhaps a relative, a friend who's passed over, or even somebody who's still alive? Because apparently we do this too.
Not myself, but Brandy. And I will tell you and the gentleman with the question, we took a trip to Las Vegas. They decided, which is Brandy, my wife, my son-in-law, Daniel, and my daughter, Devin, hey, let's go see Zach Bagans' house, or his museum, I should say. Okay. We stood in line. We went in, did the entire tour. That place is huge. I didn't realize it was that big inside there, but it's huge. We got to what is called the demon room, and it's really the demon room. He has the stairs from the demon house. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that or not, that he purchased. He purchased this home, couldn't get rid of whatever was there. I don't really know the entire story, but he took the stairs and put them in that museum. Also inside that room is a statue of, it's what they call Bell. It's a satanic statue. And we looked, which is us 3, but Brandy stared. Mm-hmm. And her eyes were locked on that statue, and we couldn't unlock them. Brandy, come on. Even the person that was showing us the tour, ma'am, come with us, ma'am, come on. We couldn't. Finally, Daniel, my son-in-law, grabbed her and pulled her out of the room. And she says, what's going on? You were kind of asphyxiated, locked there. Well, she got an attachment. She brought it back to Texas, and the thing nearly killed her. Michael, and I'm being honest, it tried to kill her. Car wreck. So?
Okay.
Okay. Well, a car wreck, knife injury in the kitchen. Let's see. She was placed in a hospital, and she was dying, and they couldn't figure out why she was dying. Finally, they said, oh, well, it's in her stomach. So they had to do some work on her and save her life. She was dying slowly. This thing was killing her. And finally, I said, I'm calling Scott, which is our minister. I called Scott. I said, Scott, we got a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, attachment. He said, oh, no. Okay. So he went to work, prayer, and got the prayer team going. And next thing I know, it's off of her. But that was bad. Really, really bad. I nearly lost her. All because of taking a trip, Well,
again,
this really did happen. This is the truth. This really did happen.
And that's why I always put such caution out to people who want to do this on any sort of level. Once you put
Yeah.
yourself in the space, you do put yourself at risk. And when I go out into the woods or these haunted locations by myself, I'm very on guard, especially intuitively
Wait a
when I
minute.
feel
Wait a
something.
minute.
Yep,
You said you go by yourself?
I do.
Michael, don't do that.
I know. And I know it sounds sort of pompous to say it that way, but the fact is, I don't really have anybody around here. All my great friends are in other states or other parts of the world, so I'm kind of limited.
I understand. I understand.
But then again, your suggestion here is certainly warranted, and I do believe that. But if there is a point where I feel that I'm getting a little too close, and this happened very recently, I turn around and I reassess the situation, even if I didn't make it to my destination. And folks, you'll hear about that tomorrow night when we interview a good friend of mine who is very versed in the location I attempted to visit. We'll get into that. But, long story short, when these entities attach to you, it seems to make sense, right? Because we're a biological being, we have an energetic field, we're giving off certain impressions and signatures, if you will. But for for a spirit to place itself or attach itself to an object, I wonder, man, I'm just going to propose this, maybe it was the intention of the living to put power onto this, wherein maybe the object itself does carry some sort of EMF as a result of people's focus and attention on this, and this could be the ability or the gateway into the spirit attaching. Now, again, that's just my thoughts. What do you think it takes for a spirit to attach to an object? And I'll be honest with you, Robert the doll, I can't even look at the damn thing through picture, because as soon as I do, I start feeling really unwell.
Yeah. We have had things similar to like that, Robert the doll and Annabelle and things like that we know something's there. We just have that feeling, and it's staring at us. We're staring at it. Finally, that's it. And we have to go to work on it. But we did. Brandy didn't go with us. She had to work that night. She's a nurse. She had to work. But we were called to a home in Ennis, which is just north of us. We're in between Ennis and Corsicana, actually. And we went to Ennis, and the lady said, "It's a demon." I said, "What?" Back up. We don't do demons. That's out of our realm of expertise. She said, "No, please help me. Please help me." Okay. So 3 mediums, true mediums. It took them about 3.5, 4 hours to get rid of this thing out of that house. They ran it out of the house into the carriage house, this was a historical home. And it had a carriage house behind it, which they converted upstairs into an apartment. Downstairs is a garage. Well, it ran upstairs, and they chased it along with my son-in-law. My son-in-law and one of the mediums said, "Jeff, don't do it. Well, this thing has already hit me and knocked me back, and I almost went through a wall and coming down the stairs." And they said, "Don't do it. Don't get involved. Don't do it." I said, "Oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm stay down here." So I stood in the grass and I waited. They were up there about 30 to 45 minutes, and then they all came down and said, "All clear. It's gone." Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, now, when this thing hit you and physically pushed you back against the wall, what did that feel
like? Yes, it hit me full force. It hit me full force right in the chest, like somebody had just 2 hands shoved me as hard as they could back into the wall. The wall cracked. I didn't go through it, but it cracked. And I apologized to the homeowner, and she said, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The circumstances, I understand." And at that time, Daniel came down, which is my son-in-law. He came down. He says, "I need to turn on the ghost box, spirit box." I said, "Okay." He and Devin, my daughter, are spirit box specialists. Okay. He said, "I need to turn this on and listen." Well, he listened for a while, and the thing was running around downstairs, and he finally got it to talk to him, and it was really blowing and going. And it told Daniel what he thought about him. And he never mentioned me, but he told Daniel what he thought about him. And then it just went silent. And I said, "Daniel, the fight's on. What do we do, man? I want to get out of here." He says, "Don't leave. We need to help her." So they helped her, and they rid of it and they got rid of it. But that was tough. That was tough. That's probably one of the toughest ones I've been involved in.
These type of experiences are harrowing, and you never forget them. You know, battling on the psychic plane is something. It's hard to describe, because usually when I have an entity come in around me, and it does happen occasionally, you know, I'm very aware of the environmental change and how it's acting upon me, how uncomfortable I'm feeling, and you know, this isn't something I'm unfamiliar with. I've had to do this for years on a psychic level. I know that sounds a little strange to some of you, because it's not something that I can necessarily quantify and you know, give you, but I can repeat it in way of my own experience. So for what that's worth, that's what that is. But when these things come in, you know, I immediately see it in my third eye. And it's a persisting face or an image that's very grotesque. It's very unsettling in whatever way that it can. It just gets that edge on you, whatever it is that really unsettles you. That's what you end up seeing. And from that point, you know, I call in my own protective forces, and with that, I work with them. I don't just sit back and let them take it. I then visualize the entire room dropping with a bomb of light that just cascades out and envelops the house. And as we're doing this, I mean, I can feel the space clear, but it takes a lot of energy, a lot out of you to keep that. You're like holding a wall against a dam that's trying to break through. And yes, you can put every bit of your body up against this thing. At some point, you get tired. So it's like punctuated bursts of battle, wherein I'll push it out and then whoop, it comes back, and then boom, push it out again. When it comes back the next time, it's a little weaker until finally it's absolved. Exactly. In that respect. But my God, it takes so much out of you to do, and I've had many sleepless nights where I have to keep the lights on, or you know, something playing on my phone in the background, just to keep my mind off of what I'm seeing with my third eye. Because if you try to go to sleep and close your eyes, doesn't matter if they're open or closed, you still see this damn thing inside your head. So it's very curious. How would you identify? Yep, go ahead.
That happened to me after a trip to Waverly Hills Sanitarium. And
tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Oh, okay. That was my wife's idea again. Brandy and her bright ideas. Let's go to Waverly Hills. We'll do the tour, and then if it's good, then we'll do an investigation. Okay, let's go. So we went and did the tour, and we walked up down the stairs. Well, walked up the stairs, I should say, because there's no electricity in the building. We had to walk up the stairs, and we got up to, I believe it's the fourth floor, if I'm not mistaken. And the gentleman said that was with us, he says, I need 2 volunteers. I need a female and a male. I'm going. I'm Jeff. I'll do it. I'll do anything. Yeah, I'm going. So I stepped forward. Brady shoved me forward, basically. And he said, okay, you, and I need a female. And a young girl stepped forward. He says, walk the hall. Walk down to the hall. Do you see them before we even go? And I looked down the hall, and there was shadow people everywhere. Michael, and I mean everywhere at the end of this hallway. So we took off walking. She said, I'm terrified. I said, just stay with me. I said, I'm a paranormal investigator from Texas, and just stay with me. You're going to be okay. She says, I'm not a paranormal investigator. I said, just stay with me. You're going to be fine. We got down there, and the man called from the end of the hall with the group, and my wife was still with the group. All right, stop, turn around. We stopped, turn around, and she grabs hold of me. I mean, I thought she was going to rip my shirt off of me. She was holding on so tight. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, she says, they're touching me, they're touching me, they're touching me. And I look to my left, and they're putting their arm around her neck. And I look back to my right, and one of them was leaning on my shoulder. My right shoulder, and they're standing behind me, they're standing in front of me, and finally he says, okay, that's good, come on back. So we started walking back, and they stepped back, and just like a dam opened, they stepped out, and we just walked. She says, what just happened? I said, you just met shadow people. She says, I'm gonna have to do some research on this. I said, well, you met them. First and foremost.
It's jarring, especially for those who are not necessarily interested in the field, not only because you're seeing something that you don't believe is necessarily there because it's not tangible in the way the rest of the physicality is, but it now challenges your belief systems and what you know to be real. And of course, this really does shift people's paradigms, and it can be a very, very frightening experience. Frapsap has a question here. He said, did he say, you, Jeff, did he say it was a statue of Belle? Can he describe the statue in more detail? How did he know it was Belle?
Solid black granite, very granite. It was made out of granite, and it had a black base. Up at top, it was a demon, and it was a winged demon, had horns. It's a satanic statue. If you ever seen one before in a photo or whatever, it's that statue.
I believe you can find it online as well, Frapsap. I think
yes,
I did find a picture.
Yes,
it's pretty interesting, very enigmatic piece to say the least. Very quickly, Offworld Adam once again says, have you seen entities halfway through the floor ever? If so, what do you think about that? And I'll jump on this one quickly, and then you give me your thoughts on this too, Jeff. When spirit is in a location, it doesn't necessarily follow any sort of architecture and way of physicality that we may have. They don't have the same limitations within this sphere of reality. So when you see some apparition floating 5 feet off the floor or embedded in the floor still moving about, they're existing in their own space on their planes of existence, and yet it sort of crosses through with ours, which again spatially things may not be in the same spot. So that's my thought. Jeff, what do you have to say about that?
Not necessarily a full-blown apparition, but shadow figures in I guess it was the rec room at that nursing home I was talking about in Teague, down in Teague, Texas. Mm-hmm. That's where I saw them in the rec room. There was multiple. I just ignored them and just kept walking. I had my niece, who's one of our photographers, Stephanie. She was with us, and she says, "I'm taking photos." I said, "Do your thing." And as soon as she started taking the photos, they were gone. So
almost as if they don't want to be acknowledged or seen, and I get that impression a lot of times when I show up to a location. It's almost as if, hey, what are you doing? You're blowing our spot? Get the hell out of here. I get that feeling sometimes, and you have to calmly explain what you're doing there, why this is important, and sometimes it takes and sometimes it doesn't, and you sort of have to follow suit with whatever result you end up getting there. Now, when you come up against a shadow figure, an apparition, I've seen the ghosts without feet and, the different tiers of existence that they kind of bleed through into this reality. You don't focus on it immediately with a straight eye. Sometimes you have to see it out of your peripheral, but it'll sustain this way. How can you, when you stand in front of one of these, determine maybe at the moment or afterwards that this is either a human entity, someone who is incarnated, passed on, and may have certain set of behaviors that either look poltergeist or otherwise, versus a non-human entity who hasn't been incarnated into this physicality and probably doesn't really have a purpose to be here in the sense that we would describe?
Well, I would have to go back to Teague, the nursing home. It was so big. Most nursing homes set like on a wagon wheel design. The center point is where the nurse station is, and then the halls go out from that. This was not. This was kind of jagged everywhere. There was nurses stations everywhere. There was like 6 or 7, 8 halls, and as we walked, you see something out of the corner of your eye, like you're saying, and I would have to tell them, "Don't look." Why? Just don't look. Just don't acknowledge, because that thing shouldn't have been there. And I don't know why it was there, but it shouldn't have been there. And it was a dark mass, and it was slowly coming at us. I said, don't acknowledge it. Just keep walking. And then Stephanie, I want to take a picture. No, don't. And just keep walking.
Do you think that it's important that we acknowledge certain entities when we walk into these spaces, and others we should really veer away from?
Yes.
Why?
Let them know you're there. Let them know that you don't mean any harm and no disrespect. You're just there to find out their story. You want to know their story and see if you can help them and go from there. We did a home in Fairfield, which is not far from Teague, and we always do a prayer circle before we enter any resident or building or whatever. We're in a prayer circle. Well, we started our prayer circle, and the mule and the horse in the pen next to us, it was on a farm, they began to fight. And it was calm as could be before we got there. I mean, while we were there. But as soon as I started to pray and I led the prayer, they went to fighting. And everybody stopped, let go, and turned and looked. I said, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. And I just continued to pray. And when I stopped praying and I said, amen, I looked over and they were gone. They were gone. And we never saw them again the rest of the night. Going outside, taking breaks and things like that, we never saw them again the rest of the night.
The curious thing is that it seems that we are very fleetingly aware of the paranormal, and yet the paranormal is omnipresent or omniscient in a sense to our presence. Why do you think that is? Why does it seem so uneven in way of perspective, for us to be aware, and it's a challenge for them to be aware? It's nothing. There have been spirits who have been at a location miles and miles away, and when the paranormal investigators show up, they already know that the spirits were expecting them.
They know you're coming. Cemetery, Lone Oak. We went to it, and all of us went. The whole team went. And as soon as we stepped out of the car, it felt heavy. Before we even went through the gate, it felt heavy on all of us. And the girls said, Stephanie, Brittany, and even my daughter Devin, who's the EVP specialist, she said, maybe we shouldn't be here. I said, let's go. Maybe it's just something. Let's just try. We'll check it out and then see what we can find, and then we'll get out of here. We walked around, took our photos, did our EVPs and things like that, and video, and then we started to leave, and it left with us, or attempted to leave with us. The girl said, "Who is that? What is that? Who is that? What?" And I turned around and looked. Oh no, it's coming. I said, "Get in the cars. Get in." We had 2 cars. Get in the cars. Get in the cars. They dove in the cars. It was maybe 3 because I think our nieces and nephews were here from Lubbock that weekend. They went with us, and when Stephanie was driving her car and she had a load of people in there, and when she took off, she jumped the road, one side to the other. I mean, she actually jumped the road driving that car. And I had to get her out. I said, "Are you okay?" "I'm getting out of here." That thing, Michael, it was trying to get us. It was trying to get into cars with us. I mean, it came through the gate and followed them. And it was in a, I'd almost say it was in a human figure, but you couldn't really make it out, the face, but it was coming at us. And that's when I even said, "Let's go." Let's just go. So we haven't been back. We've driven by it, but we haven't been back.
Do you feel comfortable to visit that location again, or do you feel like you're being repelled in some way, cautioned not to return?
I want to go back. I do. I want to go back. I'm going to admit, I want to go back. There is a child. There's a child buried there that I got an EVP from, and I want to go back. That night, I couldn't make out what the child was saying, but I'd like to go back.
Do you feel it's more of a personal challenge to enter that space, given the experience you had, or do you think something might be waiting for you, aside from your desire to capture more of the paranormal? I mean, I have a very similar situation myself, where I want to go out to a location, but I'm not allowed to go there. Every time I turn my eye towards that location or start thinking about what I might do, something kind of shows up, or there's this huge truncating energy that just says, "No, do not come here."
Yeah. I had that feeling also, but a part of me says, "Forget it. I want to go." Well, just like Brandy, we're going back to Las Vegas soon, and one of the stops she wants to make is Bacon's Place. You're crazy. She says, "No, we're going in." Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Yeah, right? I mean, the intrepid and foolhardy human spirit. You know, we are
Yeah,
certainly a very special species, to say the least.
yeah,
You know, even observing what we have on this planet already, you know, yes, there's
yeah,
always this draw, and you have to kind of weigh the consequences of making that decision. And honestly, with this type of work, you don't ever really know what you're going to get. It could be a mixed bag, it could be nothing, it could be something
yeah.
beyond what you would ever have expected. Very quickly, Tina Mobley, I'm sorry I missed this super chat. I've
That's okay.
been very
That's okay.
engrossed. Very, very engrossed in this conversation. It is fascinating for me. Thank you so much for your $3 super chat. She says, just sending a little love. Your channel tip, and I appreciate that. And I did have one more here from Long Island Bigfoot. Bam, $5 super chat. He says, a little support, the best versatile channel on YouTube. Brother, I thank you so much. And of course, guys, keep your eyes open. Michael will be helping us with the Montauk documentary that I'm putting together with Brian Minnick this August. And I implore you to stay tuned for that. Now, going back to the aspect of the team a little bit, I have a couple questions about this in way of what you guys do and the professionalism that's behind your outfit. So, first and foremost, we see a lot of these outfits grow in size. I mean, even Zach Bagans at one point was bringing people into locations by 20 or 30 at a time. And to me, this has always seemed to be a little cacophonous when you're trying to sort of nail down energy or even, you know, decide what's being experienced. Or, I mean, that's a lot of energy to go into an already charged place. Who knows? Maybe somebody's carrying something in way of baggage or a karmic imprint that, you know, might be stirring this up in some respects, so you have a different experience. So to get to my long-winded question here, your outfit, do you feel that you have better results or feel more comfortable going with a smaller group of people or even, you know, one or two rather than a larger crowd? And if you prefer that larger crowd, what do you feel in a way of experience dictates the necessity to have that many people on an investigation?
We take 6 of us. There's 6 of us that go.
Okay.
When the last thing that we went to Teague, there was 4 of us, and Teague was that's very interesting. Michael, I was even on TV on that one. That was pretty interesting. Have you ever heard of the Ghost Brothers from Atlanta?
I have heard them. Yes, I have heard of them.
They had a new show called Haunted House Guest, and they wanted me to get a client. Okay, I got a perfect one, Teague. And they said, okay, we're going to go check out that place. Is it really haunted? I said, it's haunted beyond belief. And we don't know who this guy is. It was one gentleman. We don't know who he is. So he's not a gentleman, but he was a murderer, come to find out. A murderer and a rapist, and he killed a child. And on that property, that was where that house used to be another nursing home. And her mother worked there in the laundry in the back of the building. And while she left, he grabbed her, raped her, and killed her. Well, they did research, and they found out who he was and got his name, and they got rid of that cold-blooded son of a gun. They got rid of him. Mr. Creepy was what they called him. They got rid of him.
I think it's curious that they were able
that house is clear
to do that.
Yeah, that house is clear now.
That's amazing to me. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, you know, people live some sort of life, okay? And, you know, we probably have, at least in way of conjecture here, many different levels of spirituality on this planet now. So what I mean by that is that maybe there are some who've lived many, many lives on this planet and have taken some of that experience with them into this life. So, you know, we're not necessarily drawn to the samsara or the physicality of this so much rather than the spirituality. This is the path that we're choosing. I find that when somebody commits a crime as horrendous as taking one's life, and I don't mean this in way of suicide, although this can apply as well. I think because we look at reality in way of vibration, okay? Of course, we've cited Tesla many times on this, and there were many others who really put forth some very soft evidence. And of course, today, we have hard evidence in the way of physics and science for that. I think that there are certain planes of vibration which may be very thin in respect to, when we look at the third dimension as a whole band of different vibrations that we can exist across the way that a voice carries through a voice box, right? So they're going across different frequencies, but we exist in a band of these frequencies. So when somebody commits this crime and they find themselves outside of their body, first thing they might realize is that, I'm dead. So this is a shock to them once they finally realize it. For some, I guess it does take some time to come to that realization. They will hold themselves there. There's nothing else that's keeping them there. The victim in life is not, holding them down. It's their own guilt about what they've done and who they are that keeps them there. And again, you see some of the residual recordings of that physicality, perhaps repeated in screams, something audio, something visual. When you go in to help some of these spirits and you come up against them and they maybe share their story a little bit in one way or another, how do you know that you're going to be able to help this spirit, or that they even want that help? Maybe they don't know themselves, but they need it.
We point blank ask. Just ask. Is there something that we can do for you? We have the audio out there or the spirit box out there, and they will respond to us. If we don't get a response, the fight is on. If we get a response, yes, then we're going to help the best we can to help them cross over and get out of there. We did a restaurant in Corsicana, a very old building, and it had a tunnel that ran two different directions. One from that restaurant over to the hotel, which is now a bank, from the restaurant, and from there over to a speakeasy that was discovered down the street. And the bar is still there. There was still liquor on the table. There was still liquor in the glasses. When Prohibition ended, they went upstairs, left everything there. They didn't need that anymore. Yeah, there was cards still on the tables and things like that. They left it. It was pretty neat. But nevertheless, the tunnels are gone. You can't get through the tunnels; they're caved in. But what it used to be is a bordello, and we checked it out. And the first thing that got us was we thought we went to dinner there. Just I'm Brandy and Devin, our daughter, before she was married, and we took our recorder. It was Devin's idea. She turned it on, put it on the table, and let it play for a little bit. And she asked, "Is anybody here with us? Is anybody here with us?" I think she asked 3 times, and she turned it off, and she played it back real softly. And the first thing you hear is a female's voice say, "Money. I need money." Wow. Okay. Well, let's check this out. Let's find out what this place is. Well, we asked the owners, and the owners told us. We told them who we are, and we got a bigger team together who was friends with my wife, and we got a team together and we checked that place out. We went upstairs and we went through the ruins of the rooms that were, back in the back and things like that. And they got in. We had a medium with us, and he got into a physical struggle with the pimp. The physical struggle. He could see him. He could see everything. What got us is before we went in, he says, "Man, that sure is pretty." What are you talking about? He said, "There's a carriage down there with a woman in it, and the 2 horses are gorgeous." Okay, I believe you. And we went inside, and he saw the women. He saw everything. He saw a little boy. We couldn't figure out who the little boy was. The little boy was one of the girl's sons, and he was running around.
Interesting.
Downstairs, just running around. But he got into a physical struggle with the pimp. He said, "Man, I thought that guy was going to kill me. I really did." He says, I never thought a ghost could do something like that, but he was on me like never before. But he finally got him off of him, and we got out of there. The girls are still there. Everything's still there. I mean, we did our investigation. We showed them what we found, and they said, "Leave them." Okay.
You're at that boss. Point, that's because these people or spirits, if you want to look at it this way, they have their own path to follow.
Clients tell us that before. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
we've had clients tell us, leave them. We want them here.
Well, if they're not bothering the client, you know what I mean?
No,
I could side on
no, they're not
their
bothering them.
opinion too. Yeah, so why remove them
Yeah.
if they're not bothersome? It's only the ones that are really causing an issue that don't want to live harmoniously that, you know, I think we need to extricate in many ways. Very quickly, Dorothy Hawkins, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. She says, ever seen a spirit recording of the past? I personally have not, at least I think in the way that you're asking, Dorothy. I mean, if you want to be a little more descriptive with this.
On that, please.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind just elaborating a little bit, maybe we can answer that with more clarity. And AL Warrior, thank you so much. He says, Dark Hour. Yeah, just Dark Hour. That's what we're here doing. Dark Hour with Dark Hour. Yeah, it's a fantastic time, guys, and I hope you're having fun. I want to ask you one more question here before we hit the top of the hour here and end up where we need to be. Why so much negativity when it comes to the paranormal? I mean, yes, it feeds entertainment. You know, people love to go into the scary, spooky places, and, you know, for what it's worth, this is really gimmicky in way of, you know, what paranormal outfits sometimes present. And I'll point to television like you did as well. It's really put me off in a lot of senses to some of those productions because I know the script and the editing and what they're doing in way of the narration and angle. So why is it
you have to remember, Michael, TV is entertainment.
That's exactly it, right? But this is what most people have to go on in way of building a foundation, understanding what paranormal investigation is all about. Now, I'm not saying all of them are bad or false. I mean, I did enjoy Ghost Adventures for some time, although I know that they've bent things not so much as Ghost Hunters, because, I mean, even I debunked one of their shows there very easily at the Concord Colonial Inn. But long story short, when we recount...
Well, who got us started on it? What TV show got us started on it was The Cops out of Chicago.
Oh, I remember that show.
You remember them? That's what got us started in this field. I can't even remember, but that's what got us started in this field is watching them. I thought, okay, they're helping people. We can do this too.
They had a different bent than I think other shows were doing at the time, and they had the law enforcement behind them, you know, making it a very official in way of the investigation. But why is it when we recount paranormal activity that we really sort of focus on the negative stuff? I mean, you know, yes, there are some nice movies out there about friendly ghosts or positive experiences, but then you have Paranormal Activity and you have The Exorcist and you have the Conjuring universe. I mean, all of these really, I think, spread the paranormal field in a very negative light. Why do you think people are so attracted to that, understanding that probably most of what we experience in life is a reflection of something within ourselves?
I think, we'll start with the Conjuring series. They're following Ed and the late Warrens and what they have found and things like that. And I just think that people want to know, is this stuff real? And they want to be scared anyway, you know, and things like that. Because I get calls and emails. Are you guys for real? Are y'all joking? And I've had calls at Halloween, and they just want the ghost hunters, you know, to come to their Halloween party and see what they can find. And no, we don't do that. You know,
good. I mean, keep it separate. You're not
gonna get the ghost hunters. We're not a party, you know, party favor. You know, we don't do that. I've had them call and come out and do our swim party and things like. No, we don't do that. You know. But they just want to be scared, or they want to know the truth. Like I and Brandy, we wanted to know the truth.
It's genuine,
and we're slowly finding it.
It's a genuine interest. And, you know, I can sit here and tell you, I'm not somebody who scares easily. This is not me being a tough guy. I just don't scare easily. But when I'm in a situation where I feel some of that energy coming from a place that I can't necessarily thumb down, the fear itself, I mean, the physical impact this energy can have on you renders you sick sometimes. And then that gets your mind going and you start to spiral with what the energy is trying to do to you. It's acting upon you. So to me, it's very discernible when you have that type of experience. It's not oh my God, I'm scared of what's over in the corner. You feel something along with whatever's, you know, visceral at that moment. Really, really interesting. Oh, Dorothy Hawkins mentioned here, she says, my question was about those sightings, which seem to be a recording of the past, where the spirit doesn't recognize or acknowledge your presence, keeps repeating same moves. And I believe she's talking about residual hauntings, Jeff.
Oh yes,
Thank
there
you, Dorothy.
plenty. We have had plenty of residual hauntings, and they know they. I'll say this, Dorothy. They know they're there, but they don't know why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had to explain to them, it's over. It's time for you to go. Go where? They didn't understand. They didn't understand the statement. Go where? Where am I going? And then on top of that, while we had the friendly little "where am I going" thing, you had the one that stepped in and pushed them back and say, "You don't talk to anybody." You know.
This is an aspect that we sometimes come up against.
Now we have a fight. Okay, here we go. We stick the mediums on them. Yeah, we stick the mediums on them.
That's part of the field. That's an aspect of it that you have to be able to.
Yeah.
Listen, you can't go into this work without being a warrior, and I mean that in a very literal sense too. But it's not necessarily your physicality that's going to keep you from harm. It's your way of thought and your ability to control your thought. That takes a lot of energy and practice and discipline. But believe me, it can really behoove you in a positive way when you find yourself in these situations where you are being forced against something in front of you. When running is not an option, this thing is going to come with you regardless. Listen, Jeff, we are out of time. Yep, go ahead, please.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say before we even begin an investigation, Brandy does a full interview with the client in the home, and she has had things run up on her while she's trying to interview. So
I believe that. See, they're listening. They're listening. They know what's happening.
They know we're there. They know we're there, and they know why we're there. But it has been a wonderful time with you, Michael. I really appreciate you having me, and I hope that you stay warm because it's beautiful down here in the Republic of Texas. That's how, except for we got a storm coming.
I wish I was down there with you, my friend, in the bright and sunny weather. And even if you have this impending inclement weather, I love the thunderstorms too. And you guys get some pretty intense ones out that way.
Yeah,
so long as the
do.
Tornadoes don't accompany, we should be fine.
We had those just recently. Tore up a bunch of schools in Jacksboro.
My God. Well, listen, my friend, stay safe out there. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. It's certainly a long time coming, and I'm glad that we could connect at the time that we have. Would certainly love to have you back at another point in time. In the meantime, I've put
I will
your
be
Facebook
honored.
links. Thank you, my friend. I put your Facebook links down in the description there. Is there anywhere else that people can find you, including your website, that they can get in touch with you or have a chat, whatever you'd like to do in way of availability?
Just give me a call. My phone number is on my website. It's on the front page of the website. Just give me a call.
You heard it from
my
him,
phone is on
folks.
24/7, even when it's charging. Yeah, even when it's charging, it's on.
I appreciate that because that's somebody, again, who is very dedicated to this field. And again, your mission, which is to help people and help spirit in way of crossing over and reaching some sort of harmonic balance here in the physical.
And we do this. Mm-hmm. And we do this free of charge, and we are very confidential.
As it should be, my friend. And as a nonprofit organization, you guys do some fantastic work and clearly touch the lives of many, and will continue to do so as we roll forward with so much experience under your belt. Listen, I'm going to take you off for the moment. If you have to go, I understand. If you'd like, I'll have you stick around for a minute. I'll say my proper goodbyes off camera. But either way, thank you so much, Jeff, from Darkhour Paranormal Society, for coming by tonight and lending his insight and experience on the paranormal at large. Thank you, Jeff. Oy, I'm so bad with the lag, but we work with what we've got. Hey, listen, that turned out much better than what we began with in the beginning there. Some technical difficulties. Do apologize. Jeff came in very clear after a moment there, and I have to tell you, I really, really enjoyed this interview. Talking to paranormal investigators, they all have their different angle, and a lot of it is based on the research. A lot of it's based on the experience, which in some cases we have similar experiences, but they're never exactly the same. Now, going back to the idea that things can be repeated, I think that I do have a location where some of this activity can be repeated. It's just I'm having a very difficult time getting out there in way of what pushes back as soon as I enter the woods. And I won't go into too many details about it right now, but it's something that's really been taking on my consciousness and usurping my thoughts for the last 2 or 3 days, considering, like I was speaking with Jeff, he wants to go back to this location where he had an experience. I want to go back to this graveyard and document it because there's nothing out there on it. Very sparse in the way of images on Google search. I don't find anything on YouTube. It's just not out there. People don't know about it, and it's probably one of the most haunted places in Massachusetts. And I'd like some of you local folk out there to let me know if you'd be interested in visiting. I'll certainly provide some information for you. But we're going to be getting into that tomorrow night with my good friend Michael, who accompanied me out to this graveyard about 12 years ago. In fact, he allowed me, let's put it this way. I brought my investigation group. He had a few friends that he wanted to bring along with him. It was a much larger organization than I was comfortable with, and I certainly reaped the consequences of that. So, with that in mind, folks, thank you so much for being here. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Pacific, to talk about this incredibly haunted cemetery, a colonial cemetery right out here in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. In the meantime, stay vigilant, stay explorative, and keep asking questions about this nebulous field that we all seek. Well, nope, that we all traverse in search of the truth. The late night shows, what do you know? Hey, I appreciate you guys sticking in. Thank you so much, moderators. You guys are awesome. Thank you to all of my super chatters tonight. You guys really do help out the show. We've got a working vacation coming up next week, so expect this channel to be full to the brim with content. I'll be out shooting mini documentaries as well as working on larger productions moving forward towards the end of the spring and into the early summer. And I've got some stuff up my sleeve, guys. I've got some pretty incredible stuff to show you and present to you. So stick around and we'll get to it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much once again. We'll see you next time here on Dark Hour Paranormal. Ciao. You know what? Bloody Christ, huh? Nope, let's try. Third time's the charm. That's what they say.